Subject 42 was brought into observation chamber 3 at 0600 standard time. Human. Male. Mid-30s. Visible trauma to the left leg. Possible fracture. Still conscious. Still watching us. Dr. Kelvan noted elevated cortisol levels but no signs of panic. Interesting, he said. Even wounded, they try to assess. 3 more humans followed. 1 female, bloodied but walking on her own. 2 others, barely responsive, but still upright. Each placed in separate containment cells. Vitals monitored. Nutritional intake restricted. Stress protocols engaged. Pain threshold experiments began by midday. Initial assumption. Humans would break quickly. They are not built like Zarnai. No internal scale reinforcement. No neural armor. Soft tissue wrapped in calcium and meat. They scream easily. Their eyes leak. Their skin ruptures with minimal effort. They are delicate. But then the anomalies began. Subject 42 received a controlled muscle shock calibrated to cause immediate unconsciousness. He convulsed, growled, and then sat back up. No sedation. No assistance. He looked at the monitoring lens and said, "You're gonna have to try harder." Dr. Kelvan adjusted the dosage. Doubled it. Subject 42 withstood it for 6 full seconds longer than Zarnai tolerance levels. He passed out. But when he awoke, he laughed. Not hysterically. Not out of fear. Out of defiance. We moved to thermal exposure for the others. Cell temperatures dropped below survivable thresholds. Subject 17 began to shake. Not from cold, but from effort. She was doing push-ups in the freezing chamber. Push-ups. In hypothermic conditions. She muttered to herself through clenched teeth. Keep the blood moving. Just need to adapt. Adapt. Subject 39 had 3 fingers broken one by one. He screamed, "Yes." But then, he bit down, reset the joint himself, and said, "Do it right next time." That one didn't take. These weren't outliers. They were patterns. Their muscles tore. Their bones snapped. Their skin blistered. And they kept going. Pain didn't debilitate them. It focused them. Dr. Kelvan ordered extended trials. Nerve exposure. Sleep deprivation. Chemical disorientation. Subject 42 began recording his own heart rate on the wall in blood. Each line precise. Controlled. Counting. When asked why, he replied, "Just keeping track of how much stronger I'm getting." Stronger? That wasn't in the projections. Humans were meant to decline under prolonged duress. That's how every species reacts. Even the Socrath, with their double hearts, crack under limb loss. But not these. The data was wrong. Or worse. The data was too late. By day 3, nothing made sense anymore. Subject 17's oxygen deprivation readings spiked past survival thresholds. Yet she stayed awake. She even winked at the observation drone. Her blood was thickening. Her metabolism slowed. She was adjusting. Subject 42, originally flagged for cardiac instability, wasn't declining. He was stabilizing. Scans showed microfractures in his left tibia had recalcified at twice the expected speed. His heartbeat was slowing. Not out of weakness. Out of control. He was regulating himself. Dr. Kelvan thought it was a glitch. "Run it again," he said. Same result. Then subject 39, whose hand we had broken the day before, was using that same hand to grip the edge of the cot and do pull-ups. Pull-ups. With broken fingers. Pain receptors should have shut him down. Instead, they were firing in bursts like a rhythm. Like his nerves were retraining themselves. One of the junior observers asked the question we were all avoiding. Are they healing? Or are they changing? At first, we believed stress had corrupted the neural scans. So we brought in deeper neuromapping. What we found? Their brains were growing denser. New neural connections were forming at a rapid pace. Parts of the prefrontal cortex were rewiring. One assistant whispered, "They're adapting in real time." Subject 17 made eye contact with the scanner, smiled, and said, loud enough for the mic to catch, "Pain teaches. You just have to listen." We increased the pressure. Invasive electric shocks. Sleep cycle fragmentation. Sensory deprivation. Subject 42 began muttering something between each round. We analyzed it. A mantra. Stronger. Faster. Smarter. Stronger. Faster. Smarter. Over and over. He wasn't breaking. He was programming himself. That's when subject 39 looked directly at the mirrored glass and said, Thanks for pushing us. This is exactly what we needed. Dr. Kelvin froze. What do you mean? Subject 39 just grinned. You thought we'd fall apart. We fall forward. The protocols were pushed past regulation. Dr. Kelvin wanted results. The council wanted answers. The researchers wanted control. And the humans, they wanted more. Subject 42 had gone nearly 62 hours without sleep. He was hallucinating, twitching ill, and smiling, not out of delusion, not madness, but something else, like he was enjoying it. Subject 17 was placed in sensory isolation. No light, no sound, no movement. She was supposed to scream. Instead, she meditated, heart rate even, muscles relaxed. After 10 hours, she began whispering to herself. This isn't punishment. It's process. Subject 39 had his ribs fractured in 3 places. He asked for a weight vest. We didn't give him one. He made one, filled a sanitation bucket with fluid, tied it to a pipe, and began lifting. Slowly, methodically, painful groans between every rep. The guards refused to enter cell 4. Not because of what they saw, but what they felt. Pressure. Like being watched by a predator behind the eyes of prey. Subject 42 no longer flinched at the probes. He bit down on them, twisted his neck against restraint limits to keep staring into the observation lens. Then he said, "Is this how you learn to be who you are? Because I think you stopped too soon." Researchers noted synchronized neuropatterning between all 3 test subjects, despite being kept in separate cells. They were dreaming together. EM field scans revealed pulsing rhythms in their brainwaves, like a shared signal. Not radio, not telepathic, something more ancient, more instinctual. Subject 17's file originally flagged her for PTSD. She had tremors, flashbacks, anxiety surges. Now she whispered to herself, I used to run from pain. Now it runs from me. Dr. Kelvin suggested sedation, to reset their baselines, to regain control. But sedation failed. Dosages that would put a Rithari beast into stasis for a week barely slowed Subject 42's heart rate. Instead, he bit down on his own tongue until it bled, then smeared a message on the wall. Pain is the payment. Growth is the reward. We stopped looking at them as subjects. We started looking at them as something else. Something that wasn't supposed to exist. Not this quickly. Not this deliberately. The research team argued for restraint. Kelvin refused. You want to know why they survive war? Why they keep rising no matter how often they fall? Then we have to break them first. But none of us said what we were thinking. What if we already did? And this is what they became? I wasn't supposed to be part of the observation team. I was just security. I had one job. Keep the researchers safe. Contain the humans if things got loud. Stand behind the shield glass and nod when asked. But when Subject 42 started laughing during nerve testing, I remembered something I'd buried years ago. It was on Tarsus 9, Frontline Moon. The war with humanity was still fresh back then. I was part of a sweep team sent to clear the last holdouts. Low-tech, wounded stragglers. That's what they told us. We found a half-burned bunker near the ridge. Signs of plasma impact. Human blood in the snow. We assumed they were already dead. We were wrong. There were 6 of them. 3 couldn't even stand. One was coughing up blood. Another had a bandaged stump for a leg. And the last one? He was kneeling beside the entrance, carving something into the wall with a jagged piece of shrapnel. We told him to drop it, to lie down, to surrender. He looked at us, grinned, and said, You came all this way for the end? You're about to see the beginning. Then he stood up on a broken leg and charged us. The others followed, bleeding, limping, crying. But they didn't stop. They didn't think. They attacked. One of them bit through my partner's neck. Another used a cracked helmet as a bludgeon. And the one who spoke to us? He set himself on fire. Set himself on fire. Just to keep fighting longer. They weren't trained. They weren't healthy. They weren't sane. But they moved like something had snapped inside and rebuilt itself harder. We lost half our team in that bunker. It was supposed to be a cleanup op. I was pulled out on a med shuttle. One arm shattered, armor torn, lungs burned. And when command asked what happened, I lied. Said we were ambushed by artillery. Said the humans used tricks. Because I couldn't explain the truth. They weren't trying to win. They were trying to make sure we never came back. Now I see Subject 17 doing pull-ups with a dislocated shoulder. I see subject 39 smiling with his jaw unhinged. I see subject 42 drawing on the walls with his own blood. And I remember the flames, the screams, the sounds of humans breaking themselves, just to hurt us one more time. Dr. Kelvin still thinks we're in control, still thinks they're inside our system. But I know the truth now. We're not the ones studying them. We're the second experiment. By day 7, we stopped running tests. We watched. The humans were no longer responding the way we expected. Every injection of pain, every electrical burn, every sensory overload, they didn't break. They didn't cry. Instead, they adapted. Subject 42 had fractured his skull mid-battle simulation. The doctors predicted brain death within hours. But when we checked, his brain scan showed not damage, but rewiring. New neural connections stronger, faster. One of the junior researchers suggested it was a fluke. We ran the test again, and again, and again, and each time, the results escalated. His pain tolerance went from surviving to thriving. Subject 17, after receiving chemical exposure meant to induce coma-like states, opened her eyes faster than our equipment could measure. Her body was regenerating tissue at a speed that defied biological theory. It wasn't just healing. It was evolving, rebuilding itself better. We thought it was just a coincidence, a one-time glitch. Then we tested subject 39 with bone-shattering force, and his heart rate never rose above baseline. When his spine snapped, the readings showed an increase in brain activity, not decrease. The body was compensating, but in real time. Then I watched something I'll never forget. Subject 42, still shackled and bruised beyond recognition, stood up, his face contorted with agony. He had no strength left. None. And yet, he lifted a chair, one-handed. Not a chair made for strength, just a thin metal frame. He lifted it above his head, crushed the metal between his fingers like it was tissue paper, and hurled it across the room. We monitored the data. Adrenaline spike, no. Oxygen efficiency, 0 improvement. Heart rate, static. He wasn't stronger. He wasn't faster. He was simply unwilling to stop. I asked Dr. Kelvin what he thought. He just stared at the screen, then at subject 42, then back at the screen. This isn't biology. This is something else. The walls shook. A low hum vibrated through the facility. The lights flickered. And for the first time, I felt fear. Subject 42 walked to the center of his containment cell. He took a breath, a long breath, and then he smiled. Thank you for the upgrades. We're just getting started. And that's when I knew. We didn't have control anymore. We didn't just study them. We didn't just capture them. We had woken something. Something we couldn't stop. It started with a loud bang. Not an explosion. Not a breach. Just a bang. A single, sharp noise from cell 3. Then the silence. And that's when I knew. They were out. I've seen containment failures before. I've seen prisoners escape. I've seen some slip through the cracks. But nothing like this. Subject 42 wasn't just breaking out. He was tearing apart the walls. And not with his hands, with his mind, with his will. I watched the cameras as he stood there, injured and bound, surrounded by glass and metal. Then, slowly, he began to smile. And the doors, the metal doors, started to warp, like they were paper, like they were nothing. One of the guards, panic in his voice, screamed. Shut down the systems. Cut power to the containment field. But it was too late. The lights flickered once. Then the entire system went dark. Subject 42 stood in the middle of the room, unhurt, relaxed. He wasn't breathing hard. He wasn't sweating. He was just waiting. Then the emergency lights blinked back on. The cell door? Gone. Just a smoldering outline on the floor. And subject 42? He walked through the door like it was made of smoke. Unhindered, I grabbed my comm device, called for backup. But it wasn't the guards or the text that answered me. It was Subject 42's voice, clear as day, coming through the speakers. You should have known better. You were warned. The panic started then. In the halls. In the control room. In me. I heard running footsteps, desperate shouts. There were alarms. Screeching alarms. But it was too late. I heard another guard, someone from the control center, shout into the comms. They're everywhere. They're outside the holding cells. What the hell is going on? The screen flashed with error messages. The cameras were scrambled. I looked up. Subject 42 wasn't alone anymore. There were 3 others. 3 more humans. Each with that same smile. They didn't rush. They didn't charge. They moved with a calmness that chilled me. Each step calculated, each motion deliberate. And then, right in front of the doors, they stopped. We didn't break. We didn't run. Then they disappeared. Not into the shadows. Not through a secret door. They just vanished. I was alone in the control room now. The monitors were dead. The alarm stopped. And in that eerie silence, all I could hear was the hum of my own heartbeat and the last words echoing in my head. You were warned. I never thought I'd be running. Not from humans. Not from anyone. But here I was ill. Weapons gone, ship offline, surrounded by 100 possibilities I couldn't predict. I'd been trained to track, to anticipate, to corner prey. But the humans? They didn't need to corner anyone. They knew how to become the corner. And in doing so, they made me the prey. The first explosion hit without warning. A blast that rocked the whole facility. I staggered back, trying to find the source. When I turned, I saw Subject 42, standing by a control panel, smiling like it was his birthday. His leg had been broken earlier in the trials. But now? It didn't matter. He was already moving. Time to go, Drac. I tried to reach my weapons locker. No luck. Subject 42 was standing in front of me, blocking the only exit. His expression? Grim. Like he had all the time in the world. Like he wasn't afraid of anything. The cameras blinked on, but it didn't matter. The surveillance was down. The security doors? Dead. The alarms? Silenced. I was trapped. The humans were taking everything. The control rooms, the air systems, the ship's navigation. They weren't just escaping. They were reclaiming. Why? I asked. Why not just kill me? He tilted his head. The question must have surprised him. Because you don't understand, Drac. We never wanted to die. You did. And that's when it hit me. I had been wrong. Humans didn't fight to survive. They fought to own the moment, to dominate their future, to make sure you knew you'd underestimated them. The next explosion knocked me off my feet. When I came to, the facility was in chaos. I heard voices, shouts, the whine of power systems collapsing. But I didn't hear them. They were gone. Subject 42 had already moved. And he didn't leave me with a message. No vengeance. No taunt. Just one thing. We don't need your permission anymore. I stumbled out into the open, my vision blurry, my breath coming in short gasps. And there, the ship, our ship, the Black Howl. But it was no longer just mine. It was theirs now. Begin log. Drakthal, formerly Apex-class hunter, Zorist in clutch. If you're hearing this, you're either curious or stupid. Maybe both. You've got a name, a bounty, a human. And you're thinking, if I track him right, if I get close enough, maybe I'll be the one who finally brings him in. That's what I thought too. I was wrong. His name is Reyes. No titles. No rank. Just that. And if you see that name on a contract, you walk away. You burn it. You bury it under 10 layers of dead code. Because Reyes isn't prey. He's practice. Practice for something worse. I hunted him across a moon. He bled. He smiled. He let me win for a few hours. Just so I'd feel the panic when I realized I was never in control. He killed my crew. He watched me crawl. And when he had the chance to end me, he didn't. He said, I want them to know what's coming. So here I am, doing just that. They'll say you're the best, that you're smarter than the others, that you're faster, meaner, cold enough to finish the job. They told me that too. 39 confirmed captures. Flawless record. Then I met one man. And I ran. That's my record now. You think you know humans? You don't. They bleed easy, sure. Break bones like twigs. Die like anyone else. But when you hurt them, when you push them, when you corner them, they don't just survive. They remember. And then they become something else. Something worse. Something you can't track. Can't scare. Can't kill. I don't hunt humans anymore. Not because I can't. Because now, I know what happens when you try. And I wouldn't wish that on anyone. Not even my enemies.